are here to catalyse change in the industry. So our mission is to be the number one catalyst for change on a global scale. And so I wanted to kick off with you guys, just to ask you, what needs to change first and foremost?
What needs to change? Well, I think that's a big question. I think a lot needs to change, and I use this word so regularly, I think the key thing that needs to change is conversation and collaboration. And I know I want to sort of pinch myself because it feels so cheesy, but I know that historically we've been quite siloed. Either we are working on behalf of people whose properties are damaged, or we are working on behalf of the tree owner. But I think it's critical now more than ever to come together and have conversations between one another. And I think that's really reflected as well in the ethos of what Liz said about mediation, about getting together and having those conversations. So as a quick snapshot, I would say that, but I will hand it over to Liz.
And just to exactly echo what's been said, but also early as well, as early as possible that you can. If you've got a dispute, then get behind the table, sort it out, or get it into mediation, sort it out. Definitely. Yeah.
With trees and subsidence, the amenity value of trees and all its ecosystem services needs to be considered much more than it has done so far. But as Liz pointed out, there hasn't been a case that's gone before the courts where that has been strongly argued. So it will be interesting to see whether that sort of thing comes about, but it's likely, I would have thought, that increasing weight will be given to climate influence, amenity, and so on. So that's something that needs to be considered when it comes to litigation.
Just like ag, that it's really great that there's so much information on the slides about how you can not have to cut down a tree straight away, and the underpinning, and I think that needs to be pushed out there more, education to people, and that mitigation is really the way to go. We don't have to shout at each other over the garden fence and then take a chainsaw to it. I have cut down a few fair trees in my life, by the way, but now I don't.
So obviously we have the option for you guys to ask questions, our panelists as well. But whilst I'm giving you guys a bit more time to ask a few more questions, I want to give you guys the opportunity as panelists as well to maybe ask each other some questions. So obviously you've all talked today. Is there anything that you want to know, from each other that the guys in the audience could benefit from?
I've got one. What is the most expensive claim that either of you have dealt with?
Mine's £11 million for a plenty tree in London, causing damage to an end of terrace and Victorian property. It's settled for way less than that.
Yes, probably similar, but I talk about cost, perhaps cost instead of their claim value. In terms of costs, perhaps one of the most eye-watering sums I've seen for one party was £337,000 in terms of their cost. So absolutely, truly outrageous, I would say. Yeah. Salmon.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't think of what the highest amount of money is, but I know that it's very common to be dealing with cases that get to litigation that are worth way under 100,000, and you can have legal costs that will be 3 times that. So if you've got one party with 300 grand's worth of cost, the other party with 300 grand's worth of cost, the loser's picking up the tab for 600 grand, and that's before they even pay out any legal damages. So it can really, really, really quickly snowball. And we all remember the old COVID graphs, don't we, in the sort of exponential growth part of COVID? Well, if you think of that exponential growth graph, that's exactly what's happening to legal costs in the run-up to a trial. It goes from sort of 0 to absolutely nuts when you're thinking per day how much it costs to be in litigations. It is nuts.
I think one of the most frightening things is people just don't consider it. So they haven't actually mapped out per stage how much it's going to cost them, and they just keep going on. And then you get what you call sunken cost fallacy. So people think, oh gosh, I put so much money into it now, can't possibly do a U-turn, can't possibly withdraw from this now, and it's too late. So that's the end result, is they end up nothing else to do anything with it.
I have a legal case which wasn't exactly subsidence. It was a dispute where a basement had been built next door. There was a party wall agreement, So which was, if our building the basement causes damage to your property, then we'll pay for it. There was damage to the property, and they didn't pay for it, and it escalated multiple experts, and eventually it ended up in court. This was two private individuals who were funding the litigation themselves. So two families that were paying out £40,000 to £50,000 over the course of this to try and resolve it, and so yeah, very tricky. Therefore, it was very helpful to our side when the joint of the experts the engineering experts completely agreed with each other that it was the basement works that were the problem, not trees, and also very helpful to our case when my counterpart, tree expert on the other side, when it was put to him that his engineer didn't agree with him, he said, well, I do realise we're clutching at straws here, and so not the kind of thing that a barrister wants to hear, that you're not that confident in your argument. Anyway, they were successful, and they got their money back.
But any more questions for each other in particular? No, amazing. So I also have a question for you guys. So regulation changes. Now, I know that some of them have been covered today, but do you guys have any predictions for the future? Things that people should look out for at all?
Yeah, a big one is the Environment Act. So the Environment Act got launched November 21. It was launched just as tree law launched as a business, coincidentally. And contained within the Environment Act is the duty to consult, along with other things. There's biodiversity net gain as well. Liz is an expert on biodiversity net gain. There's the duty to consult. So what that means now is that there's some guidance going to be coming in from DEFRA, which means that local authorities, before removing one of their own street trees alleged to be causing damage by subsidence, have to consult with local residents before that decision is made. We're still waiting for guidance on what that's going to look like. DEFRA sent out some questionnaires, I think last week, to tree officers across the UK for some responses to go back by the 22nd. So yeah, that date's passed now, isn't it? Yeah. So that's in the process of being put together. So I think that's the biggest thing that's going to impact people from my point of view. I'm not sure, but do you want to say anything about biodiversity? Yeah. So yeah, that.
Can I say something as well?
Sorry, I turned it off.
Over the summer, I became involved in an instance where a private school had, over the summer, decided to fell essentially a woodland, about 300 trees, 100 trees, 300 cubic metres, or lots of timber. And they had a felling licence to do that, but the trees were protected by a TPO. And the Forestry Commission are obliged to notify the local authority, and the local authority is supposed to respond. In this case, the local authority didn't respond. The school didn't consult with anybody about the felling of this woodland, which was a very prominent feature of the school. And when the students came back, and parents and so on, after the summer holidays, saw this devastated frontage to the school, they were up in arms. And the local authority didn't respond to the notification from the Forestry Commission, so as a default they got permission to fell. So one thing I'd like to see change is that local authorities must respond one way or the other, and that you can't carry out your felling licence until a decision has been made about the preservation order covering trees. But that needs a change in the law.
Brilliant. And before we go into some of the questions from the audience, one by one, what's the one thing that you want people to take home today? Apart from a nice goodie bag, of course.
Go on, then, don't understand. Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious from my presentation. better off mediating rather than litigating, I think, all round. Got to be considered and get things settled. Any dispute can be resolved through mediation, but you just need to get the right mediator and you need to get parties to the table.
Trees are a good thing.
Hope for the future.
Einstein.
I stuck up to say that one, yeah. Have a go at using my subsidence calculator. It's a trademark painting. But yeah, so I've done a lot of work to put together a calculator, which is, I can be guilty of being accused of having what's known as carbon tunnel syndrome. So I know trees are far more than just carbon. I know that. There are huge amenity values to trees, and there are lots of ways to try and calculate what the financial value of those is. But yeah, have a go at using my subsidence calculator. It's available if anyone wants to do some number crunching with me.
Yeah, and just subsidence as well. And for local authorities, statutory bodies, just be prepared because there are claims coming, and the number of people that I do speak to at the moment are saying, well, what did it do? Question mark. So it really is, think about being prepared, whether it's policy, procedures, what have you, get the knowledge of the big prepared.
And one final thing. And if you don't know about substance and want to know more, come and do my substance course.
Called Getting to Grips Society.
Okay, so we do have 11 questions to get through. So kicking off with those.
Only the easy ones.
Only you ones, okay. Let's do. So can you elaborate on the Peterborough Oak case and the circumstances?
I think that's one to do a Google on.
Okay. And so which parties tend to be resistant to mediation when offered, and what can we do to overcome this?
That's good. That's a good one. So as a solicitor, I'll be the first point of contact in trying to get somebody to agree to mediate. So I'm going to be doing that, acting on behalf of the claimant or acting on behalf of the defendant. And actually, Liz was saying that the time is coming where the court's actually going to make parties mediate, but I've experienced a claim where a judge actually put in an order for all parties to mediate, and that was about 8 years ago. We had absolutely no choice. We had to mediate, and all of us went into that thinking, none of us want to be here. This is never going to work. There were 50 parties. It was a mediation over 3 days. We thought there's no chance. We had 3 mediators just to actually be able to logistically deal with the number of people that were there. And we were about a month away from trial. And again, people thought, what's the point? Because the trial's next week, going in next month. And it settled. So that was unbelievable. So I would say, what parties can be resistant? It could be any parties. But I think as a solicitor, I would think it's my responsibility to try and persuade anybody involved in any sort of dispute that mediation really is the quickest and the cheapest way forward to bring something to an end. And in terms of mediations, 100% of the mediations I've been to have ended in a settlement. So that, and I've been to more than one, so it's not just
Yes, and I would say, to add to that, the uninformed. They're the people that have resistance because they don't understand it. So whether it's listed in person or people representing themselves, or whether it's solicitors or whoever just does not understand the process and what the benefits are, those are the people that you really need to get to educate them as to what you really do once you've got your hand drawn.
I often speak to Liz about whether people would find it interesting to see a mock mediation, because I think it could almost, as a process, be quite hard to get your head around. And actually, when you're involved in mediation during the day, well, not for you as a mediator, but action can be quite boring because nothing much happens for large part. Can do. So I wonder, show of hands, would anybody be interested in seeing what a mediation could look like? Yeah.
We need to do
Yeah, because I think it's almost got an air of mystery about it. And once you've been to one, it just gets rid of that. But I think that's a big show of hands. So perhaps, Liz, we need to. We'll get this as we get some boat piece pack.
Yeah, we do. Something I've got to dress up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get to dress up.
So the next one is more of a terminology thing. So can you please explain the acronyms LTOA and TDAG?
Sorry, yes, that was me. LTOA is the London Tree Officers Association. And Andy Tipping from the LTOA is here, so shout out to Andy. And TDAG is the Trees and Design Action Group. So a group that's headed up by an architect, Sue James, and runs a lot of workshops and stuff in relation to policy and things like this. And they do a lot of free source training, and I'm sure will be on there. I'm sure they've got a YouTube channel of some sort. But yeah, if you Google either of those, you'll find some really useful resources of LGA or TDAG.
Awesome. And so a question for 9 trees specifically. So someone has asked, why would we choose your services as opposed to the Woodland Trust?
So, yeah, good question. We often get compared to Woodland Trust and Ecosia and Ecology and all kinds of different people like that. So we only plan in the UK. We work with the landowner. We don't buy land or have our own land. The Woodland Trust mainly maintains a lot of ancient and woodland that's already there, which they do a great job of. I've volunteered with them for years. I'd say we need many different approaches to securing carbon in woodlands and stopping the felling of woodlands. So I would say don't choose, do both, or tell your friends about it, and maybe a couple of your friends might join this group to have 9 trees as like a volleyball club or whatever you're into as a sport or your groups, and keep up your membership with the Woodland Trust and the RSPB and all the other environmental organisations, and even go as far as like the Rainforest Trust. So we're doing the whole global approach. But if you're with us, then you can visit new woodlands and take young people and inspire hope to the future.
I think it's a good idea to support homegrown timber, so to speak. My brother lives in Peru, and where he lives, most of the rainforest has been cut down. And there's lots of international projects to try and plant new forest or restore old forest, but it's really difficult because landowners plough it up, burn it, and so very hard to establish because there's very little control. So it's worth doing, of course, but I think we have more assurance in the UK that when you plant some trees, they'll survive to maturity.
Brilliant. I think that's pretty good time-wise on the questions. But what I will say is, obviously, I think you guys are all sticking around, so if anyone has any further questions, feel free to grab them with lunch. And so, Evan, probably some closing remarks.
Thank you. I'll just sort of sit back, Rory. Thanks for helping with that. Thanks everybody for coming along. I think one of the biggest things is to start conversations and have conversations with people in different parts of, the sector, different parts of the industry, and, embrace change, and let's embrace that change over a sandwich and a drink now over in the breakout area. Just thank you ever so much for coming. It means an awful lot for you guys to be interested in hearing what we've all got to say and to be supporting all 4 of us.